Thank you all for coming and for staying until the end. So, there I am, a wife, mother, nurse, UW alumni, sitting in front of a room of Tanzanian adolescents, about to teach them, along with the help of UW undergrads, the basics of reproductive health. Neither the UW students or the adolescents really knew what to expect, but it was game on. So what I would like to share with you today is the journey I have been on that brought me there and here. How I ended up as one UW student so kindly said in their evaluation of my lecture, going to Africa at my age. My journey started in Chicago on the South Side, the third of 8 children born to Tom and Lorraine Dillon. Even though we were 10 people in a 2-bedroom house, we were raised with love, dinners at 5 p.m., and the example of always helping others. Give what you had and use your talents. My dad could fix anything. A neighbor once told me he had been under every car and every sink in the neighborhood. They also told us to never give up, to look beyond your horizons, which is why the day I graduated college, I graduated with one of my brothers, Tim, and we became the 6th and 7th of the 8 kids to do so. It took me 20 years. It might have taken me 20 years, but I was finally the nurse I wanted to be. My nursing journey first took me to UW Children's Hospital, where I cared for children with cancer. It was there that I learned how fragile life truly is. And since there are no guarantees, you have to live the life you choose to live for as long as you live. Your life trajectory can change in an instant. It was that lesson and my own wanderlust that led me to Africa the first time. My husband Tim and I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro in 2001. On the way to the trailhead, we passed a building that the guide said was the clinic. And I thought to myself, I want to be the nurse in that clinic, in a clinic like that. After a long, arduous, week-long climb, we made it to the summit, and I realized that I could do anything I set my mind to. And my thoughts returned to that clinic. It was like I was led there. It was like my nursing education had brought me to this place. And I thought about my long-term desire to do international nursing. And I decided it was my time, my turn to do it or stop wanting to do it. So in 2003, I became the first UW nurse to be granted a leave of absence to do international nursing. I volunteered for 2 months at Nyumbani Children's Home. It's outside Nairobi, home to over 100 HIV-positive children. My first Swahili words were tafadhali, kachini and nyamaza. Please sit down and be quiet. I was responsible for the medical care for all the kids. And it was there that I realized that I loved the work and I could make a difference. I fell in love with those kids. And I learned that I had this deep feeling that every child in the world has a right to grow up strong and take their place in the world. But I couldn't just feel it, I had to do something about it. So in 2007, I returned to Nyumbani in Kenya as a Fulbright scholar. And there's the proof, I have the t-shirt. I was evaluating a curriculum that taught the kids what they needed to know. These were kids, when I was there, it was so obvious to me how little they knew about reproductive health and HIV. Their horizons had been so close for so long. Nobody expected them to live. But now that they had access to life-saving antiretroviral medications, they could look beyond those close horizons to long, healthy lives. And the information they needed was critical. Fortunately, through my work in the infectious disease clinic and the UW Adolescent Medicine Clinic, I discovered I had a hidden talent. I could comfortably talk about sex, despite what my kids would tell you. So again, I returned to Kenya as a Fulbright scholar, evaluating a curriculum that gave the kids the information that they needed. We all learn from each other. They learned, I learned. I learned that we all have misperceptions about each other and our lives, that stereotypes hold us back from learning the truth about each other. But yet, once we can get beyond that, there's so much we can share. I was also awarded a Nelson Mandela Fellowship, which allowed me to partner with a local organization, to ensure what we do is sustainable, to bring it on. So the experiences that I had during my Fulbright year inspired me to start talking health out loud. It was there that I learned that it's not about us teaching them, it's about what Africans want and what Africans need. So Talking Health Out Loud is a program that provides some of those services that Africans want. It's not about us teaching them. It's about sitting down and sharing experiences and expertise. We create an environment where it is safe, it is private, and we can talk comfortably about these things. And oh my God. So again, being sustainable, being able to prove it, to show other people, that have local people be able to do what they want to do. So what has this journey taught me? The first thing it has taught me is Tuko Sawa. In Swahili, we are all the same. That it doesn't matter where we are born or what we have, that we all want the same thing: to be loved, to have a future, to be healthy. That is what universally drives us forward. And if once we perceive that we deserve those things and that we can attain those things, we can create a life that embraces them. It was a great awakening for me to realize that my life wasn't a series of steps, of preordained steps in grow up, get an education, have a job, get married, have a family, that I could not only bring things to the table, I could create the table. My life could be a tapestry of emotion and color. That the things that I brought to the table, contributions and experiences, could maybe make a difference and maybe change the lives of others. That in my 20s, my table wasn't full as a new wife and a mother. In my 30s, as now a mother of 3, still a student. In my 40s, as a new nurse. In my 50s, as a mountain climber and Fulbright scholar. In my 60s, as a grandmother and a mama duck. And I have to explain the ducks. It is with the help of UW students that I teach that participate and help teach these classes. They're officially known as the ducks because I always am counting them, making sure they're where they need to be, and I keep them close to me. So all those things changed so much for me. And Talking Health Out Loud is a true example. Here are some of the ducks. Talking Health Out Loud is a outgrowth of all the things that I learned when I was there. So we have the services we provide we cover the topics of reproductive health and HIV, gender-based violence, and mental health. And the students, like I said, participate in all these classes. So the students, my life has changed, but so has the students. It's so humbling for me to see the work that I do in progress in real life. The head of Nyumbani told me one time, that he was going to teach the boys about a class on respecting women. And the boys said, "Oh, you don't have to. Susan Gold already taught us that." Yeah, I have one name, Susan Gold. And they love to say, "Susan Gold, you are back. You have increased." The staff of Keys Hotel, our in-country logistics partner, took the lessons that we shared with them about Tuko Sawa and how it relates to their relationships with HIV positive people, and spread them to their neighbors, their families, and communities. I will never forget sitting in a hot, dark room and deep in the slums of Kenya, outside Nairobi, watching the adolescents I had taught taking slow, deep breathing to help deal with the feelings of anxiety and depression that nobody had ever acknowledged before, and with no resources about the only way they could help with that they could do with that. And the students, the ducks, their lives has changed too. One of my students had never been on a plane before our trip, always thought he wanted to be a doctor until his first condom demonstration when he learned he wanted to be a teacher. He then became a Princeton Fellow to Africa and is now living and teaching in Botswana. I also learned that if you have a passion for something, it can make a long journey a blink of an eye. That balance is really hard, balance in life. That my family will tell you in times of peak travel, she lives over there and visits here. I have yet to blow birthday candles out with my 3-year-old grandson, Andrew, whose birthday I share. But yet I hope deep in my heart that they are proud of me and that they realize that for me, being more than a mom and a grandmother makes me a better mom and a grandmother. That they too have horizons beyond what they can imagine, and they need to imagine them. So how do you start this journey to these unexpected places and look beyond these horizons? Number one, dream big. There is nowhere in the world your skills and your education can't take you. Number two, do the hard work that makes things happen. My friend Bob Dolan always says, keep chopping wood. Have a 5-year plan. It helps you see your life as a series of journeys, not a straight line A to B. Every day think, is what I'm doing helping that plan come true? Every day get up and do what you have to do so you can do what you want to do. Create and live by a set of principles. It helps you make decisions. Know that to whom much is given, much is expected. Don't turn off the TV when it's hard, when what you see on it is sad. Learn to miss your ignorance. Acknowledge your ignorance. I thought that for HIV positive adolescents, if they could disclose their status to others, that meant they had accepted their status, that they were comfortable with being HIV positive. I had to learn that for HIV positive adolescents, disclosing your status could be choosing a life of undeserved shame and isolation. That even though we have movies and books and songs about sex, nobody wants to talk about it. And yet, if providers or caregivers are not comfortable talking about it, they won't talk about it. And if they don't, it's their patients and their children who suffer the consequences. I never could imagine that this hidden talent that I had to talk about this could help so many others feel comfortable to do so. You have to create your own table. You have to set your own table. You have to make a difference. Perhaps we can learn from the world's children, some of whom I have had the honor to meet. Children who are grieving the loss of their parents their families, their homes, who live in extreme poverty and in the chaos of war. So many who are infected with a virus for which there is no cure, which involves taking literally tens of thousands of medications throughout their life, and for which they may live, they may be shunned and stigmatized. These children hold on to their childhood with a tenacious, just with breathtaking tenacity. They refuse to see their future as anything but a life of remarkable, attainable horizons, for which you and they, I hope now, because Tuko Sawa, we are all the same, can look beyond. Asante sana. And just a couple things. If my former students, so there's some ducks here, if they would stand up and show that this is, they too are. And my family, whose support I could never do without. And Bob Dolan, who told me to keep chopping wood and make it happen. Thank you so very, very much.